And welcome to News Now. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari has ordered the immediate retirement of 17 permanent secretaries of the Federal Civil Service. The president issued the order in a meeting with the permanent secretaries at his office at the presidential villa in Abuja Tuesday. Their dismissal comes on the eve of the appointment of new ministers for the country. Now, the presidency on Monday announced that it will officially inaugurate a new Federal Executive Council on Wednesday, November the 11th. Meanwhile, the president has also approved the appointment of 18 new permanent secretaries in the Federal Civil Service, while also confirming the deployment of 36 others. All appointments take effect from November 10th, 2015. Two female suicide bombers suspected of belonging to militant Boko Haram group have killed 3 Nigerians in a truck full of refugees in a town in Cameroon's far north region, a local government source has said. Military sources had said earlier that the suspected bomber's target was a nearby mosque in Fotokol. The first bomb went off during a security check, and it was unclear if the second bomber had detonated her bomb or whether she had been killed first by Cameroonian forces. Boko Haram insurgents had waged a 6-year campaign of violence, killing thousands of people and displacing many from their communities in northeastern part of Nigeria. Neighboring countries, including Cameroon, joined forces against the group in 2014 as its offensive spread beyond Nigeria's border. The Nigerian army says it has captured another suspected Boko Haram terrorist on its wanted list. The arrested man has been identified as Ishaku Wadifen. A statement by Army spokesperson Colonel Sani Usman said the wanted terrorist suspected to be a Cameroonian was arrested at a checkpoint in Adamawa State, northeast Nigeria, and handed over to military intelligence for further investigation and possible prosecution. His arrest comes days after another wanted Boko Haram terrorist, Chindo Bello, was apprehended by aviation security while boarding Aero Contractors airline flight to Lagos at Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja. Chad has declared a state of emergency in the Lake Chad region after a series of raids and suicide bombings there by militant Islamist group Boko Haram. Chad was instrumental in forcing Boko Haram to surrender territory earlier this year, undermining its 6-year campaign to carve out a Nigerian caliphate. But the sect members have since carried out numerous attacks in remote border areas around Lake Chad, killing dozens of people. The country's communications minister Hassan Sila Bakari said the order, effective immediately, would grant authorities new powers to search and monitor residents in the region. A top UN official said last month that an 8,700 regional task force will begin joint raids against Boko Haram when the rainy season ends soon. Nigeria's former National Security Advisor Sambo Dasuki has filed a lawsuit against the country's secret police, the Department of State Services, asking the court to order the DSS to remove all form of barricade or barriers laid around his residence. Dasuki, a retired Army colonel. Now, Dasuki's house, of course, in Abuja, has been under siege, with the DSS operative restricting the movement of the retired military colonel and that of other people coming into his residence. The operatives are insisting on delivering personally a letter of invitation for him to appear before a committee set up by the government to probe arms purchase while he was Nigeria's security advisor. The former NSA denied being invited to appear before the committee, accusing the DSS of trying to arrest him without any fresh court warrant of charge. He has now sought a court order seeking to remove the DSS from his residence. He said the institution had hindered the accomplishment of the orders of the court, which gave him permission to travel abroad for medical attention. A federal high court in Abuja, Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory, has granted bail to the former governor of Benue State in north-central Nigeria, Gabriel Suswan, for the sum of 100 million naira. He was arraigned before Justice A.R. Mohammed over a 9-count charge bordering on money laundering to the tune of 3.1 billion naira. It is alleged that he and his former finance commissioner, Omodachi Okolobia, diverted the proceeds of the sale of shares owned by the Benue State government and Benue Investment and Property Company Limited. An offense, of course, which is punishable under Section 15(3) of the Money Laundering Prohibition Act 2011 as amended in 2012. However, the two defendants pleaded not guilty to all charges leveled against them and were each granted bail for the sum of 100 million naira each. But the judge ruled that the EFCC remands both men until their counsel actually meet their bail conditions. He also adjourned the trial till December 8th and 9th. Now, it was total lockdown on Tuesday at the LMA axis of Rivers State, South Nigeria, as pro-Biafra supporters staged a protest in solidarity with the Biafra radio host Nnamdi Kalu, who has been detained by the DSS. The protesters, who stormed the streets in their hundreds, were however prevented by security agents from proceeding to Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital. Although the protesters appeared resolute to continue their march, security operatives managed to maintain the barricade, causing many commuters to resort to trekking long distances as a result of the gridlock caused by the face-off. However, the Rivers State government has dissociated itself from the protests by pro-Biafran groups. It says it took exception to the disruption of commercial activities by the protesters and that it believes in one indivisible Nigeria. The United States Ambassador to Nigeria, James Entwistle, has highlighted the need for coordination of information between government spokespersons with a view to countering Boko Haram and violence extremist propaganda in the country. The ambassador made the call at the opening of the federal government spokespersons workshop in Abuja, organized by the U.S. Embassy in collaboration with Nigeria Union of Journalists, NUJ. Entwistle also called for effective press operations with a view to communicating clear and timely information to the public. The training, which was at the request of President Muhammadu Buhari, is meant to enhance press operations in Nigeria at both the federal and state levels.
The issue of the day is make sure that you get there first. Make sure that you're the first one to comment on it, that your remarks or your statement is out there first. That way you capture control of the issue. Everyone else has to respond to what you say. I've learned the hard way too often that if you let someone else comment first and you're then reacting to what they said, it's very, very difficult to make up, to catch up. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's something that has become very apparent to me. Because related to that, something that all of us struggle with when we speak for our government is you want to get out, as I just said, you want to get out quickly, you want to be the first one out there, and yet you have to be very careful about what you say. Because once you say something in public, I've learned the hard way, you can never unsay it. You can clarify, modify, correct, but you can never change what you said. So I think that is one of the great challenges. You have to be quick, you have to respond efficiently, and yet you have to take that extra moment and just think about what you're going to say. Because once you say it, you're stuck with it forever. I don't mean that in a negative sense, but it's just a reality of this business. Speed versus content, that's something that I think all spokespersons struggle with constantly. And I know in my decades in this business, I've frequently said something in public that seemed fine at the time, and then afterwards, when I thought about it more, or I saw it in print in the newspaper the next day, I thought, here's a better way I could have said that. But we don't have that luxury in this business if we're going to get the word out as quickly as possible.
The All Progressives Congress APC has described as cheap blackmail the decision by the Kogi State government and the PDP Governors Forum to blame political interference for the delay in releasing bailout funds for the state. In a statement issued in Abuja on Tuesday by its National Publicity Secretary Lai Mohammed, the party said it had no business with the release or otherwise of the bailout funds to Kogi State. It said, quote, the accusation was in line with the newfound propensity of the PDP to blame everyone but itself for the woes that have befallen the party in recent times, end of quote. It urged the Kogi State government to sort itself out with the CBN if indeed it wanted to get the bailout funds. A federal high court sitting in Asaba, the Delta State capital, South Nigeria, has ordered the Nigerian firm Sterling Oil Exploration and Energy Production Company Limited to pay a fine of 68 million naira. The fine was imposed on the firm by the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency, NOSTRA, for failure to report the oil spill incident that occurred at the Okuibeme location C on March the 5th, 2011. delivering judgment on October the 29, 2015 in the case filed by Nostra for enforcement of regulatory sanctions. Justice Ola Toregun Ishola upheld the submissions by the counsel to Nostra that SIPCO was liable for the offense. Justice Ola Toregun Ishola said in his ruling that the oil company was in breach of Section 6.2 of the Agencies Act when it failed to report in writing the oil spill incident at OKWC and must be sanctioned. Consequently, the court ruled that Nostra actually had the powers under its Enabling Act to impose the fine of 68 million naira on the company. The Controller General of Customs, Hamid Ali, has warned that any customs officer caught involved in corrupt practices would serve the maximum 10-year jail term prescribed by law. Ali gave the warning on Tuesday in Sokoto when he addressed custom officers of Sokoto, Zamfara, Kebbi Area Command. He also cautioned the officials against indiscipline and living above their means, explaining that the task before him was to reform the service, raise revenue, and improve the welfare of personnel. We'll take a break here, and News Now will be right back.
Hello, you're welcome. You're watching the Funny White Man Show, which is the biggest, the brightest, and the most entertaining show in Africa.
Funny white man, funny white man, funny white man, but this is where you talk, it's too much. Give me 5,000 man, that's you. It's too much. So you get it like, when she move along the street, yeah, me should like that, I'm going girl. You know, my own people, actually. Yeah, fine, it's fun. I enjoy it. And I'm one of those very few, I'm forever taking it personal. I will listen 160 million Nigerians are corrupt. How? My brother, I'm looking for you.
Yeah, but it's a growth, and this is the time to build business and know the pitfalls and know what to do and what not to do. But there are months where you get business and months.
You know how we do, how we tell you. We did the way you did.
Hello, you're welcome. You're watching Trending Matters on the Funny White Man Show. Of course, we will bring you trending issues just to entertain and tickle your fancy.
Welcome back. Area managers of all petroleum products depots across the country have been recalled to the headquarters by the Pipelines and Products Marketing Company, PPMC. PPMC is the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation subsidiary in charge of marketing and distribution of petroleum products in the country. In their stead, chief officers considered lower in rank to the recalled managers in the hierarchy of the National Oil Company have since been directed to take over the depots. NNPC's Group General Manager, Public Affairs Department, Ohia Legwe, confirmed the directive to the area managers, pointing out that it was part of the ongoing reorganization process in NNPC. Oil prices rose on Tuesday after the head of OPEC forecast a more balanced market next year, and the U.S. Energy Department said domestic output is likely to fall further. U.S. crude rose 28 cents to $48.06 a barrel, while Brent crude, the global benchmark, was up 26 cents at $47.40 a barrel. OPEC will meet December the 4th to discuss the cartel strategy after opting to maintain its output steady in the face of lower prices and rising U.S. shale production in its last meeting. British Prime Minister David Cameron has outlined his 4 goals for reforming the UK's membership of the EU, including restrictions on benefits for people coming to the UK. He said Britain faced a huge decision in the in and out referendum promised before the end of 2017, but he said he was confident of getting what he wanted from reform talks. Anti-EU campaigners said the talks are a gimmick, and the European Commission said the UK's benefits proposal could break free movement laws. To sports now, Real Madrid striker Karim Benzema has filed a complaint for judicial confidentiality after a French radio station published extracts of phone taps that could incriminate the French international, his lawyer said on Tuesday. Now, the France international is currently under criminal investigations after a French judge ordered that the police investigate him for complicity in attempted blackmail and participation in a criminal conspiracy. The 27-year-old was placed in police custody after being summoned last week. He was the second footballer to be questioned by the police after former international Djibril Cissé was taken into custody last month over the same issue. The matter relates to a judicial investigation opened in July over claims that Valbuena was the subject of an extortion attempt. However, Cissé was released after being questioned by police, but Benzema was referred to the investigating judge. His lawyer, Sylvain Konya, who has insisted on his client's innocence, told the French judge on Tuesday that his client would lodge a complaint against a French radio station for leaking evidence which may incriminate the forward. President of the German Football Association, Wolfgang Neischbach, has announced his resignation as head of the country's football body. His resignation comes a week after German police raided the association's headquarters following allegations that the football body offered bribes to FIFA officials in order to win the hosting rights for the 2006 World Cup. Those allegations began from a report in a German magazine, Die Spiegel, which alleged that a slush fund had been set up for the organizing committee to pay bribes to FIFA officials in order to help land the tournament for Germany in 2000. The German FA, who denies those claims, set up an internal investigation into the matter, while German legend Franz Beckenbauer admitted making some payment to a FIFA account but insisted it was a mistake. Russia on Tuesday agreed to cooperate with anti-doping and international athletics authorities into allegations of doping and corruption in athletics in the country. The acceptance comes a day after World Anti-Doping Agency WADA recommended that the International Association of Athletics Federation IAAF suspend the All-Russia Athletics Federation from competing in Rio 2016. The recommendation was contained in a report following investigations by WADA that the Russian Federation helped athletes cover up doping offenses. WADA officials said the report identified intentional and malicious destruction of more than 1,400 samples by Moscow laboratory officials, recommending that the federation be suspended from next year's Olympics. However, the athletics federations of Russia, of course, have rejected the claims that it oversaw systematic doping by athletes and said it will send a document to the IAAF in the very near future outlining the federation's and doping program and its reactions to the deductions and conclusions in the WADA Commission's report. In a press briefing, the Russian Federation's acting president Vadim Zelichenok said, quote, "The sports ministry will carefully study the conclusions and the facts that they were based on and see how to take appropriate measures," end of quote. It also warned that WADA, however, should act on the basis of facts and evidence. The IAAF Council is set to meet this Friday over crisis facing the Olympic flagship sport, and Russia faces a provisional suspension at the next IAAF meeting this month in Monaco. Well, that's it in news now. We thank you very much for watching. Continue to stay tuned to TV360.